On the 14th of May 95, football was in shock. In the heart of England's industrial north, a club from a small, unassuming town achieved the unthinkable. Blackburn Rovers, a team that had flirted with obscurity just 4 years prior, were crowned champions of the Premier League. It was a victory forged in an era of big money, but won with the spirit of a bygone age. A triumph that was, in every sense of the word, an emotional and financial investment. A dream brought to life by a local boy who simply wanted to see his club back at the top. For the fans of Blackburn, that moment at Anfield was the accumulation of a lifelong hope, a defiant roar against the footballing hierarchy. The players, a collection of seasoned professionals and homegrown talents, had a singular focus: to challenge the titans of the English Premier League. And for one glorious, unforgettable afternoon, they did just that. But that day, that sun-drenched day, was also a turning point. It marked the pinnacle of a meteoric rise. And unbeknownst to anyone, the beginning of a long, painful fall. Today, they're a cautionary tale, a former champion languishing in the lower echelons of English football. This is the story of Blackburn Rovers, a story of a rise, of glory, and of an epic fall from grace. It's a story about dreams realised, and then tragically, shattered. To truly understand the magnitude of Blackburn's triumph, you have to appreciate the depth of their struggle, and the pride woven into the fabric of the club. Established in 1875, Blackburn was one of the founding members of the Football League, a pioneer in the early days of the professional game. Their motto, by skill and labour, was more than just a phrase. It was the essence of the club and the town that it represented. It was a belief in honest hard work and the pragmatic application of talent. They found early success, winning the FA Cup multiple times in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and securing 2 league titles in 1912 and 1914. But the glory years were short-lived. For much of the 20th century, Blackburn became a quiet, unadventurous side. They were relegated in 1948 and spent a decade in the second division. A brief return to the top flight in the 60s was followed by another relegation in 66, an exile that would last for 26 long and agonising years. The 70s and 80s were particularly bleak, with the club even dropping to the third division on 2 occasions. Fans of a certain generation grew up knowing only mediocrity. Their only solace was a distant memory of a glorious past. But then, a local boy who'd made his fortune in the steel industry decided to come home. Jack Walker was a lifelong fan, a man who saw the club not as a brand to be exploited or a plaything to be bought, but as a crucial part of his community's identity. He was a champion of the people, and his dream was simple yet audacious: to see his beloved team get a shot at the big time, at least once in his lifetime. Walker's involvement began in the late 1980s, but it was in 91 that his vision truly took hold. After the club narrowly avoided relegation to the third tier, he took full control and made a move that would change the course of football history. He appointed Kenny Dalglish, the legendary figure who'd won titles and European Cups with Liverpool, as the club's new manager. Dalglish's arrival was the catalyst. He was a proven, experienced leader that the club so desperately needed. Under his guidance, Blackburn secured promotion to the newly formed Premier League via the playoffs in '92. The turnaround was epic, a whirlwind of ambition and effort. Walker's mantra was often criticised as spend, 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 but the truth is far more nuanced. He didn't adopt a scattergun approach. He bought well and with purpose. He signed hard-working, experienced professionals who fit a specific, well-thought-out plan. While the likes of Sheikh Mansour or Roman Abramovich would later invest with a global vision, Walker's was intensely local and personal. He was giving back to the community that had given him so much. The spending made headlines. In the summer of '92, Blackburn paid a then record fee of £3.6 million for a young, prolific striker from Southampton, Alan Shearer. He was a player of immense talent and ambition, and his choice to join a newly promoted club over a giant like Manchester United was a massive statement of intent. The following season they finished fourth, a remarkable achievement. And then in the 93-94 season, they finished runners-up to Manchester United, proving they weren't just a flash in the pan. The warning signs were there for the rest of the league to see. The sleeping giant from Lancashire was wide awake. Before the glory of that title-winning season, there was a careful assembly of the team. This wasn't a collection of disparate talents. It was a cohesive unit, a well-oiled machine built by two master craftsmen in Dalglish and Ray Harford. They meticulously scouted and recruited players who possessed not only skill, but the right mentality. These were individuals who understood the value of hard work and sacrifice, embodying the very spirit of the town they now represented. At the helm was Dalglish, the tactical genius and figurehead. Having won everything with Liverpool as both a player and a manager, he brought an aura of success and a clear, pragmatic philosophy. He was a master motivator, a man who commanded respect without ever needing to shout. His vision was to build a powerful, direct team that was formidable at home and devastating on the counter-attack. At the heart of the team was a spine of battle-hardened professionals. In goal was Tim Flowers, a commanding and fearless presence. He was a leader from the back, a shot stopper of the highest calibre who made crucial saves time and time again throughout the season. The defence was a wall of steel, marshalled by the towering and uncompromising Colin Hendry. Nicknamed Braveheart, Hendry was a rock, a defender who relished the physical battle and led by example. Alongside him, the brilliant Henning Berg provided intelligence and composure. Berg was the only overseas player on the pitch for Blackburn that day at Anfield, a testament to Dalglish's focus on domestic talent and a nod to a simpler time in English football. The backline was completed by Graham Lasso on the left, and a rotating cast of reliable players such as Jeff Kenner on the right. The midfield was the engine room, a combination of grit, leadership and flair. Captain Tim Sherwood was the soul of the team, a vocal, passionate leader. He was the driving force, a box-to-box midfielder who set the tempo and demanded the best from everyone around him. His partnership with David Batty was a perfect complement. Batty was a relentless enforcer, a ball of pure energy who harried opponents and broke up play with his tireless work ethic. On the wings, the team had speed and trickery. Stuart Ripley was a diligent and hard-working winger, known for his work rate and precise crosses. On the other flank, Jason Wilcox provided the flair and unpredictability, a tricky winger who could create a chance out of nothing. But the real magic, the true architects of the team's relentless goal-scoring, were the two men up front. When Shearer joined in '92, he was a prodigy, a force of nature with a cannon of a shot and an unshakable belief in his own ability. He was the perfect number 9, a player built for the directness of Dalglish's system. And in the summer of '94, he was joined by Chris Sutton, a powerful and all-action forward. Sutton wasn't just a goal scorer, he was a creator, a player who could hold up the ball and bring others into play. Their partnership, dubbed the SAS, was a perfect and devastating combination. They understood each other's game instinctively, and their on-field chemistry was electric. This wasn't a team of mercenaries, it was a team of professionals who believed in a shared vision, a vision forged in the industrious work ethic of a northern town. The 94-95 season wasn't just a football campaign, it was a crusade. It was a culmination of Jack Walker's ambition and the pure, unadulterated belief of a squad that embodied the club's ethos. It was a team that was more than the sum of its parts. It was a testament to smart recruitment and a genuine belief that they could challenge the established order. The season itself was a nail-biting 42-game slog. Blackburn began their season with a stutter, a 1-1 draw away at Southampton. Southampton took the lead when Nicky Banger controlled a box-to-box pass for Matt Letizia before firing home. Blackburn eventually equalised in the second half, with a goal that felt like a promise. Sutton headed the ball down to Shearer, who side-footed it past Bruce Grobbelaar. The promise was fulfilled just 3 days later. The new partnership, a new force of nature, was unleashed. Sutton and Shearer had arrived. Against Leicester, Sutton got his first goal, a header from a Shearer chip, and the floodgates opened. Henning Berg doubled the advantage, and Robbie Slater's shot rebounded to Shearer, who swept the ball home to seal a 3-0 victory. Coventry were the next visitors to Ewood Park, and suffered a similar fate, going down 4-0, with Sutton bagging a hat-trick. Jason Wilcox got the other goal with a 20-yard strike. This was not a team, it was becoming a juggernaut. But even a juggernaut can be brought to a halt. Away at Arsenal in a gritty 0-0 draw, the emotional and physical toll began to show. Jason Wilcox was sent off after defender Colin Hendry was forced off with a head wound. The first international break passed and the juggernaut rolled on. Everton, the next victims, fell 3-0. Shearer was a blur of power and precision, scoring 2 and setting up another. But a storm was brewing, an unexpected one far from the familiar fields of the Premier League. In the UEFA Cup, a team called Trelleborg from Sweden humbled Blackburn. It was a moment of pure shock, and the narrative of the unstoppable force was challenged. But champions don't falter, they react. Blackburn responded with a ferocious 2-1 victory away at Chelsea. A stunning win made all the more sweeter by the fact that it was the first league goal they conceded in 7 hours. This was a team that knew how to get back up. The SAS struck again at home against Aston Villa, with Shearer and Sutton both on the scoresheet in a commanding 3-1 victory. October was a month of struggle, a period that would test the resolve of the entire squad. The European hangover was real. They lost their first league game of the season, a 2-1 defeat to Norwich City, then a frustrating 1-1 draw at leaders Newcastle, a match where Tim Flowers was unfortunate to see a deflection go in off his back. The story was simple. The dream was sputtering. The air was tense and the doubters were circling. Was this the beginning of the end? Not a chance. Rovers returned to winning ways against Liverpool, coming out 3-2 winners in a thrilling match. Shearer and Sutton combined for 2 goals before Sutton sealed the winner with a blast from a tight angle. But even in triumph, there was pain. A devastating 4-2 home loss to Manchester United was a game of controversy and missed opportunities, where a questionable red card for Henning Berg and a penalty for Eric Cantona turned the tide. But still they refused to buckle. Blackburn responded by travelling to Nottingham Forest, a team unbeaten in 24 games, and they walked away with a dominant 2-0 victory, with Sutton grabbing a brace. This win was a statement. It was a refusal to give up on the dream. The autumn struggles were a blip. From November through to the new year, Blackburn was simply unstoppable. A relentless winning streak began. Shearer scored the only goal in a 1-0 win at Sheffield Wednesday, and a penalty from Shearer and a goal from Wilcox sealed a 2-0 win against Spurs. They went on to dismantle Ipswich Town 3-1 and hammered QPR 4-0. They weathered a tough draw against Leicester City and a chaotic 3-2 win against Southampton, but the wins just kept coming. A 3-0 win against Manchester City and a 1-0 victory at Crystal Palace ended the year a point ahead of Manchester United. The dream was alive. The new year started with the same fierce intent. A 4-2 win against West Ham at Ewood Park with Shearer scoring a hat-trick. A 3-0 rout of Nottingham Forest. Rovers were on the march, led by a relentless Alan Shearer, who by now was becoming a force of nature. Yet a shadow loomed, a familiar one: Manchester United. A 1-0 defeat at Old Trafford was a stark reminder of their greatest rivals. It was a loss that could have derailed their campaign, but then came the news that would change everything. Eric Cantona, United's talisman, was banned for 9 months, after a kung fu kick aimed at a Crystal Palace fan. It was a seismic moment, and a window of opportunity had opened. A chance for Blackburn to seize the moment. The final months were a rollercoaster of emotion. A frustrating draw with Leeds, disappointing loss to Spurs, but then a defiant rally. A gritty 1-0 win at Aston Villa, but Colin Hendry, a rock at the back, scored the winner. Then there was a powerful 3-1 victory over Arsenal. These were the wins of a team hardened by the season's trials, a team that knew how to grind out results when it mattered most. The tension was palpable. The media circus was in full swing. A 3-2 defeat at home to Manchester City in April could have been a dagger in the heart of their dream, but once again, they found a way to respond. A victory over Crystal Palace and a hard-fought win at Everton, then another at QPR, and they were on the brink. In the penultimate game, Blackburn faced Newcastle at home, winning 1-0 with Alan Shearer getting the only goal. It set the stage for one of the most dramatic finales in Premier League history. The title race came down to the final day. Blackburn, with an almost insurmountable lead for much of the season, found themselves just 2 points ahead of Sir Alex Ferguson's Manchester United. The stakes were immense. On the 14th of May 95, Blackburn travelled to Anfield to face Liverpool, needing a win to guarantee the title. At the same time, United were at Upton Park, taking on West Ham. The atmosphere at Anfield was electric. The crowd was on tenterhooks. Early in the game, Stuart Ripley's perfect layoff found Alan Shearer, who blasted the ball into the net. The away end erupted. The dream was within touching distance. But Liverpool were no pushovers. John Barnes and Jamie Redknapp scored for the home side, and with minutes to go, Blackburn were losing 2-1. A feeling of dread swept through the away section. The trophy was slipping away. All eyes and ears were now on the match at Upton Park. Fans clutched their portable radios and their faces etched with anxiety. A win for United would snatch the title from Rovers' grasp. And as the final whistle neared at Anfield, the Blackburn players, exhausted and emotionally drained, looked to the stands, waiting for a sign. And then it came. A roar. Not from the Liverpool fans celebrating their victory, but from the Blackburn supporters. A cheer that rippled through the stadium, growing into a deafening, joyous cacophony. The news had filtered through. West Ham, thanks to a heroic performance from their keeper Ludic McCloskey, had held Manchester United to a 1-1 draw. The final whistle had blown in London. In that single, breathtaking moment, a loss had become a victory. The players on the pitch fell to the ground, some in tears of pure relief and joy. Manager Kenny Dalglish was mobbed on the touchline, and Jack Walker, the man who'd made it all possible, watched from the stands, a look of immense pride and fulfilment on his face. He'd finally done it. He'd brought the glory days back to Blackburn. Blackburn amassed an incredible 27 wins, 8 draws and 7 losses, scoring 80 goals in the process. They were relentless. What that team achieved was remarkable, and to dismiss it as simply buying the title is to ignore the smart, pragmatic decisions made by both Walker and Dalglish. The euphoria of that day at Anfield was intoxicating, but it also served to mask a truth that would soon become painfully apparent. The club had no answers for what came next. The rise had been epic, but the demise would be almost as swift. Blackburn's failure was a direct result of a lack of stability and a failure to build upon their success. The first domino to fall was Dalglish himself. Instead of building on his triumph, he was moved upstairs to the role of director of football, and his assistant, Ray Harford, was promoted to the role of manager. It was a crucial mistake. The team's 7th place finish in '96, coupled with a disastrous showing in the Champions League, which included an infamous on-pitch bust-up between David Batty and Graham Lasso, signalled a decline from which they've never truly recovered. The spending stopped too. At a time when the club should strengthen and build on its success, Blackburn felt they could continue with the squad that had reached the pinnacle. The market was changing, and they were quickly left behind. One of the final nails came in the summer of '96 with the sale of their talisman, Alan Shearer, to his hometown club Newcastle United for a then world record fee of £15 million. It was a loss that was both emotional and tactical. The team had lost its heart and its cutting edge. The years that followed were punctuated by a series of lows. The managerial merry-go-round began in earnest. Roy Hodgson and Brian Kidd both tried and failed to prevent the slide. In '99, just 4 seasons after their incredible title win, Blackburn were relegated from the Premier League. The fall was not just a fall from grace, it was from a dream to a nightmare. There were fleeting moments of revival. Under Graham Souness, the club secured a League Cup victory over Tottenham in 2002, and later, under Mark Hughes, they enjoyed a period of relative stability, even qualifying for Europe. But in truth, these were brief respites, false dawns that only served to paper over the ever-growing cracks in the foundations of the house that Jack built. With the passing of Walker in 2000, the club lost its guiding hand, its heart and its soul. The man who'd poured nearly £100 million of his own money into the club had left a legacy, but his successors seemed incapable of carrying the torch. The club became a hollow shell of its former self, its identity lost, and its purpose forgotten. Ask any Blackburn fan where the blame for their most recent and devastating demise lies, and they'll point to one place: the club's owners, the Benkes. In November 2010, the Indian poultry giant purchased Blackburn for £23 million, inherited a club with deep roots but a fragile existence. Their master plan was simple, if deeply flawed: to use football's global popularity to boost their brand. But their ignorance of the game was staggering. The new owners' first act was an act of pure hubris. They immediately sacked manager Sam Allardyce, a man revered for his ability to ensure Premier League survival, and replaced him with first-team coach Steve Keane. It was a decision that flew in the face of all common sense and sent a clear message to the fans. This was not a professional footballing operation. The fans were furious. Protests became a regular sight at Ewood Park. Banners with the words "Keane out" and "Chicken out" became a grim symbol of the club's descent. The relationship between the owners and the supporters was toxic from the very beginning. The mismanagement was staggering. The club was run almost into the ground, with colossal losses reaching an astonishing £93 million between 2011 and 2015. To stem the financial hemorrhaging, they resorted to selling their best players. They generated £23 million in 2012 alone from the sales of Phil Jones to Manchester United, Chris Samba to Angie in Russia, and Nikola Kalinic. But this was no one-off fire sale. It was a desperate, ongoing cycle of self-destruction. The departures of players like Jordan Rhodes and Shane Duffy in the years that followed proved that this trend was not just an anomaly, but a business model born of desperation. The inevitable happened on May the 7th, 2012. After a home defeat to Wigan Athletic, Blackburn were relegated from the Premier League. But the pain didn't end there. The managerial vacuum continued, with a host of names coming and going. The club was a rudderless ship, and in 2017 they suffered another devastating blow: relegation to League One, the third tier of English football. A Premier League winner, a club with a history stretching back over 140 years, had hit rock bottom. Blackburn Rovers may have found themselves in a similar position before, fighting for survival in the lower leagues. But this time the fight is different. The hope that once came from a guiding hand of a proven local businessman is gone. The club is now fighting a battle off the field as well as on it. The fall of Blackburn Rovers is a cautionary tale, a footballing tragedy that speaks to the dangers of a lack of vision and the devastating consequences of mismanagement from substandard ownership. Their story serves as a painful reminder of what happened to a club that loses its identity and its connection to its community. The club's motto has never been more relevant. If Blackburn are to ever mount a memorable march back up the league pyramid, it will not be through a stroke of luck or divine intervention. It will be through a return to their roots, to skill and labour. For now, the memories are all that remain, the black and white photos of their industrial past, the footage of their FA Cup triumph in centuries past, and that vibrant, sun-drenched memory of the day in May 1995. The roar of the crowd at Anfield, the trophy lifted by a jubilant Tim Sherwood, the fulfilment of a lifelong dream. It's a moment that can never be taken away. Today, even the most dedicated of Blackburn fans would be forgiven for not expecting a revival in fortunes to mirror their epic march up the league ladder in the mid-1990s. But in a game that has defied all logic, the dream, however faint, will always remain. And as long as that dream lives on, the story of Blackburn Rovers is far from over. It's a testament to what was, a lesson in what not to be, and a reminder of the undying hope that lies at the heart of every football fan. If you like underdog stories and football with a soul, hit like and subscribe. What are your memories of this Blackburn Rovers side? Let us know in the comments below. And in the meantime, stay tuned for more football history, one incredible story at a time.